Good morning, and welcome to First Parish, Plymouth. My name is Paul Melville. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm a member of the transition team here. I'm also today's worship associate. If you're a visitor or new to First Parish, please see one of the greeters or Reverend Arthur Lavoie or another friendly face you're comfortable approaching for information about the building, about First Parish, or about Unitarian Universalism. Most of today's service is being recorded and will be shared on YouTube and local public access television stations. The recording will end before the candles portion of our service so that we can have more intimate sharing of our joys and concerns. Please take a moment now to silence your cell phones, put it on airplane mode, or turn it off, please. Masking at First Parish is optional, though we do try to reserve the back few rows on the audience right for people who are more comfortable being masked. I'm excited today to be partnering with the chair of the transition team, Cheryl Caton, and Reverend Art to lead this morning's service on mission, vision, and covenant. Linda Harding is also on the transition team with us and contributed to this service but is unable to join this morning. And today's service will also include a ceremony welcoming new members. Today's live music is provided by our Director of Music, Sandra Catherine Hammond. Technical services are provided by Lydia Robertson. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome here. Let us walk together this hour.
I need a stool. I'm the Reverend Arthur Lavoie. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I want to offer a special welcome, not only to those of you who are gathered here, but to anyone who is watching online on our public access TV stations or on Zoom or our YouTube channel. And it's great having you with us this morning. If you want any information about First Parish or what happens here, or if you want to be able to contact me, please visit the church's website at firstparishplymouthuu.org. And you can get lots of information or be in contact with Jean, our office administrator, and there'll be a way there for you to contact me as well. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us online. We're looking forward to a delightful service.
Right, today's call to worship is from Annie Dilliard. We are here to abet creation and to witness to it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an empty house. Please stand as you're comfortable and join in singing our opening hymn, number 1010 in the Teal hymnal, We Give Thanks.
So a quick word, about this hymn. So there's a place where it says for this time we share. So first verse is time. The second is hope we share. The third is love. Good, so time, hope, love.
And those far away. And my chalice lighter, I believe, is here. She's coming. Hi, come on up and light the chalice for us. Here, take a candle. Yeah, that's a new candle. Just hold it there for a second. There it is. You got it now. Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks, Jane. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. And Carol, I need you up here with me. So we are especially thrilled to be welcoming new members this morning, and so I invite you, there is an insert in your order of service that has that on it. We gather this morning to welcome those who wish to make First Parish in Plymouth their spiritual home. Those becoming members today have been attending services and programs, have learned about the history, theology, and governance of this church and Unitarian Universalism, and have given some thoughtful consideration to their involvement here. I'd like to invite those who are becoming members today to come forward. Bethany Simons, Sue Willis, Eric Heiser, Rachel and Harrison Quinn.
As you sign the book, you claim a proud heritage of religious and spiritual freedom. You commit not only to your own spiritual growth, but also to affirm the spiritual growth of others who share this path. We are a church community that is bound by our covenant with each other, rather than by any expectation or belief. By this action today, you freely join your lives with ours, promising your time, your talents, and your treasure to this church and to the Unitarian Universalist faith that we love. Welcome.
So I invite those becoming members to come and sign the membership book. There's been a membership book in this congregation for hundreds of years. Not this particular one, but. And then could you give out the roses?
Oh, I would be glad to.
We have a gift of a rose for everyone who is becoming a member today. There's also the UU Pocket Guide, which folks will be getting later because that shipment didn't arrive that I ordered. So, and then no, you got to stay up. You got to stay up here.
Trying to run away.
You can't run away just yet. Nope.
Oh, little man. Oh, no. Look at her. Here's Mama.
Oh.
I feel that way too.
And those who are currently members of the congregation, could you stand? And there is a part for you. It's on the insert in your order of service. It is with joy. And then you all have a part. The new members, please.
We commit to be part of the spiritual life of First Parish in Plymouth. We promise to speak honestly, to act with compassion, to love without prejudice, to live with integrity, and to respond courageously to the demands of justice. We pledge to support this congregation as we are able with our hearts, our hands, our talents, and our resources.
And then everyone, whoever is there, if there are people sitting, please stand. And everyone join in the last part, please.
In our shared lives together at First Parish in Plymouth, may we become more effective instruments of service, voices for justice, peace, reason, and compassion, and a community that honors life in all of its diversity. May our common ministries be fruitful. May our commitment, our presence, and our love endure.
Thank you all very much. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. And I want to invite Jen Caton, already here, who is going to do our Time for All Ages today.
Hello, I'm Jen Caton. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Okay, so we're talking about covenant today. And for our message for all ages. Oh, is it off? Hello? Hello? Can you hear it? Okay. So we're talking about covenant, which is a kind of promise. And it's not just a promise of, I'll do the dishes. It's a promise, or I'll clean my room today. It is a long-term promise. And I was thinking about a message for all ages for the kids in mind. And the one from our old church at Thomas Paine in Pennsylvania used to do, and maybe you guys know it, and I just didn't know you knew it. But they had one that was really, really nice, and I always really liked. So I'm going to do it for you, and then maybe we can do it together. We're the Church of the Unitarian Universalists, the Church of the open mind, helping hands, and loving heart. Maybe we could all try it. We're the Church of the Unitarian Universalists, the Church of the open mind, helping hands, and loving hearts. So the easiest one, I think, is probably helping hands. How can we be helpful?
To help people when they fall down or help them with a picture.
Okay. And how can we be loving?
We can love people.
We can love people? Absolutely. It's pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple. And how can we have an open mind? You have an idea? No?
we can meet new people where they are and not judge before we know them.
Absolutely. And we can, yeah, we can accept people just as they are. Yeah?
You can really, you can let other people's ideas and just don't think of your ideas, but on those ideas.
That is fantastic. I was thinking about ideas the whole time you read my mind. All right. Do you have an idea?
And try new things.
And try new things. Absolutely. And there you go. And we're going to be talking about promises today and how we can be open-minded, have helping hands and loving hearts, right? All right. Guess we're going to sing them out.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
So we went through the process of updating our mission at First Parish Plymouth about 12 years or so ago. And for our reading this morning, I'm going to share the mission that we landed on back then. We said, the mission of First Parish in Plymouth is to enrich our individual spirits, to cultivate our relationships with one another across the generations, to reach out to our neighbors, and to act for change in the world. Now, Sandy will play our musical reflection.
It's a video, actually.
Oh, Lydia will play our musical reflection.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cheryl Caton. My pronouns are she and her, and they're very well known. We're going to take everybody through an abridged journey or an abridged story that we have all been a part of over the past 5 or 6 months while we have had our covenant circles or our chalice circles that we have been revisiting 3 themes: our mission, our values, and our covenant. As we go through this journey, as we go through this abridged journey, we are going to get to the point where we are starting to talk about where we go next, how to, in a corporate speak, sort of operationalize our covenant in a more sort of community speak to make our covenant manifest in our day-to-day interactions so that we are aware of it, we internalize it, and we can see it and feel it and know it in all of our daily interactions. That's where we're going. So we've had these wonderful meetings along the way. We've refreshed our own minds, the transition team, which I serve as the chair, Paul and Linda, as Paul mentioned earlier. We have refreshed our memories about the last time we updated our mission, and we've refreshed our memory about our values, various times that we've touched this work in the past. It's clear that, our covenant goes all the way back to the Mayflower Compact, and it's clear that communities, organizations, all sorts of entities enter into new, revised, abridged, amended covenants from time to time. They should be a living, breathing agreement, not something that changes with the wind, but something that does change as society changes, as needs change, as our understanding of things changes. Today is not a day to wordsmith, and while we've done that work to reflect on our mission and our values and our covenant, and we're going to share a lot of that, and we're going to get to the place with a reworded covenant, potentially, or maybe a reaffirmed current covenant, we'll see. We're going to get there by doing a process. We're not going to wordsmith. So today we are going to have a little bit of interaction, and we've had lots of interactions through our small groups. We'll also do some more activities over the course of the summer that will lead us to a wordsmithed version, one that we can all recite, understand, and internalize, and an operationalized version, which is more of a policy and a process and a procedure, our practices. This is how we make that manifest, make that come into our lives. That's where we're going to get to by the fall. So today is a day where we take the small group work, and for those of you who weren't able to be a part of the small groups, this is another chance for you to jump in. There's still more opportunities, but this is sort of a midpoint to make sure we're all on the same page. We understand our alignment with our values, not that we will be 100% in alignment, but hopefully we'll be generally in alignment. And that will allow us to both wordsmith over the summer and to create our operational practices. Good. Paul's going to describe a little bit more about the details of the work that we did over the course of the last 6 months or so.
Thank you, Cheryl. So first off, a special thank you to the Covenant Circle facilitators, Jan Blanchard, Kim Capel, Vaughn Keller, Abigail Batome, Linda Harding, Cheryl Caton, and yours truly, as well as Reverend Art, who led the facilitators through this process. Cheryl also deserves special recognition for agreeing to chair the transition team. There were definitely some days and weeks when it felt like Linda and I took a step back, and that just left Cheryl standing there by herself in the front row, having to do something because something needed to be done. Thank you, Cheryl. So over these past 5-6 months, there were 7 groups, 7 chalice circles, let's call them, right? They each met 4 times for about 90 minutes each. That's 42 hours of group time. And that doesn't count the additional 4 or 5 facilitator group meetings, the separate transition team meetings that we had to plan and support the process. 42 members and friends of First Parish signed up and participated in these monthly groups. That's many of you who are here today. That's more than 1,700 participant hours that you gave to this process. Thank you doesn't feel like enough, but this has been on the docket of the transition team, of Reverend Art, and of First Parish for many years. We intended to do this, a lot more of this work 3 years ago, and I don't have to tell you what happened, but it's really big, important stuff, and so much good conversation and ideas and alignment, as you're going to I think find, came from that 1,700 plus hours of work that you all put in. So thank you.
Thanks, Bob. I love his radio voice. It just brings just a wonderful level of professionalism to this whole process, which I do not bring. So I bring much more of a sort of camp feeling to the whole thing. So as we went through these 700 hours, each month the leaders of each circle would submit high-level overview of the discussion that they had earlier that week. And there was a lot of similar concepts expressed in different ways, and we had Art would put a process together for us at each of these circles so that we'd be talking about generally the same thing, but of course the participants would be sharing their thoughts, their ideas on values, their thoughts, their ideas on previous conflicts and how we navigated through those, about ideals as to where we might be going, about our mission. So we had these thematic conversations, but of course everybody's different in the room, so everybody would bring up their personal ideas, their personal concepts, their experiences, and then those would be summarized into these reports. And then we would get these reports at the end of every month. So those 1,700 hours really boiled down to, 20 pages of notes. Some folks write notes in sort of a narrative form that say things like, and then this person raised their hand and they said this, then they took a drink of water, and then there was another point over here. And other folks write more bullet point, like, be kind. So all sorts of different, we would get all sorts of different types of feedback. And then, as I mentioned before, we also went back into sort of our history to pull forward some ideas that were sort of left on the cutting room floor, so to speak, from previous efforts to make this happen. Then, in the last few weeks, we've pulled all of that together and found those sort of redundant ideas. Not that they're redundant in people would say the same thing. The same sentiment would come forward in lots of different ways. And we tried to sort of encapsulate what those sentiments were that were most consistent. And a lot of times the sentiment would come forward in a real positive sentence that would say something like, I love this congregation. I love all the people in this congregation. Great. And other times it would come forward in a little bit more of a negative or a way in which we could improve. These are the things that really get under my skin about the way in which we operate as a congregation. So both sides of that, we tried to boil those down and sort of get them together, and we really came up with sort of a top 5 sentiments, top 5 values that we identified. I'm going to share those 5 values with you, and you have little cards to represent these values. There's a little anyway. So the 5 values, I'm going to read them to you in a little note about each one. The first one that jumped right off the pages and the 1,700 hours, was love. It was literally the most common phrase that was shared during all of those meetings from all of those people, is simply the word love. So we just left it alone and just said love. Transparency, which is this little one right here. You're looking through a magnifying glass at a piece of paper. And the phrase that we sort of worked around with transparency was transparency in our actions, decisions, and interactions with each other. So when we say that transparency, that sentiment often, it came up in reverse, and it would be things like, the problems in the past arose from ... not being transparent, or let's not make that mistake again, let's share the things that we struggle with so that we can learn from them and grow from them. Those types of sentiments were often in the transparency. Sometimes it would talk about the budget, sometimes it would talk about how decisions get made. Things like that are all in the category of transparency. The next one is community, and the phrase we sort of came upon with this was, First Parish is a community resource, and the healthier that resource is, the better we can deliver on our mission. So it's got a little operational feel to it in this community one. This would incorporate comments about, people would talk about membership and how do we grow our membership, about our financial stability and what we need to do to become a financially stable operation, and then those comments would also be related to how we can do good in the world. And so we talked about that as all of our community, and again, that phrase that we sort of came upon was, First Parish is a community resource, and the healthier that resource, the better we can deliver our mission. The next one is a sense of journey. So this is your image. A sense of our community, this is what we said, a sense of our community journey as forward, growing, impactful for members and others. This was really summarized by all the comments about growing and learning together. Sometimes comments about our intergenerational support would sort of be put into our journey. People would say things like, I love that the kids are learning from older adults, they're learning from middle-aged adults, they're learning from folks with all sorts of different life journeys and life experiences. Those are all sort of captured in this word journey and in the value of journey. And then the last one, I actually have two cards for the last one, so because it has a sort of social justice thing and a responsibility. What we really ended up on is the responsibility one, but if you're a big fan of social justice, you can use either card. Sorry about that. And this is responsibility to each other and the broader society. And these comments came forward around social justice a lot of times, and how we hold ourselves accountable to each other and to our social justice ideals. Everybody good? We'll obviously share all that in written form. Now what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game, because this is the Cheryl and Paul show, and this is what we do. We play, games. So you have all your cards, and you have a seventh card, and that is this one. And this card is, this is not in alignment with who I am. So I'll come back to that card in a second. What Paul and I are going to do is we're going to read, and I don't know, maybe we'll stand. We're already, I don't know where to stand.
You can put that mic down on the floor.
You can put that.
If you want to come down.
Thanks. We just make Lydia work hard. That's really what we do.
I'm reminded that the last time we did the Cheryl and Paul show, there was chocolate, and I'm sorry that there isn't chocolate today.
No.
Right?
Oh, chocolate. Yes.
Right.
All right.
For
So,
those of you that weren't here, the chocolate auction in February was a big success.
So folks, how tall you are, you just squeeze this and it can go up and down for anyone who wants to talk, okay?
you're the best.
That's the height.
Thanks, Lydia. All right. Lydia, do these mics on our lapels work?
They work, everything works.
And they work in the room? No. They're just for YouTube.
They're just the video.
Got it.
So you have to be closer to the standing mic. Sometimes it automatically shuts off. You just have to check it.
Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. So, since later today we'll be doing the annual meeting and we'll be voting, this game feels a little bit like voting. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to read various comments that you shared with us during the circles. And when we read those comments, what we want everyone to do is to hold up one of your cards. And you want to hold up the card that most aligns with your feeling about that sentiment. So if we read one that says, Model good behavior for new people and visitors. Be constructive, not divisive. And you might say, oh, that feels like love. And then you might put the heart up. Or you might say, oh, that feels like community. And then you put the community card up. Either answer is fine. If you say, model good behavior for new people and visitors, be constructive, not divisive, and you say to yourself, oh, I am not aligned with that value, which that would be a little bit of a thing.
And we'll show you the door.
Then you put this one up, right? So you get to choose which of the cards you put up. I'll read off one, and we'll just sort of get a general sense. We're not going to actually like count votes. We'll count votes later today. We're just going to get a general sense, and really I'm going to look for those X's more than anything else. Okay, so the first one, that was the first one, but I'm going to do one more first one, and then I'll step out of the way for Paul. I love the people in this congregation. And everybody's going to hold up their card. There you go. I don't see any X's. All yours, Paul.
Okay. I'm glad we decided not to count. Go about creating a forgiveness process.
Ooh, I like that. Ooh, look at that. Journey and community and journey and love
And transparency.
and transparency. Whoa. That was like the best one because it fit all the categories except X. All right. To have the courage to go deeper with people and to heal wounds and build trust so as a community we can go beyond the artificial harmony to be a loving community we all aspire to. I like that one too.
Another nice mix.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Be aware that people have different levels of sensitivity.
Oh, I need to take a picture from this angle with all these different cards up. That's the, Gene, that's the social media picture.
Can you read just a tiny bit slower, please?
Sure. Let's see. Provide mechanisms that allow us to speak the truth. Oh, I can't find it. I'll do that one. Great.
Exercise your opinion.
Fun. I think we are called on to support each other's efforts to get out and help each volunteer's initiatives. Let's do one more each.
Okay. To be kind in words, even when disagreeing, agree to disagree.
All right, and this will be the last sample. To challenge people in the community when we have broken our covenant. Transparency, I like that. Great.
Do you want to stay here or do you want to go up?
No, let's go back up. Is that all right?
Sure.
Those are wonderful, thanks. Oh, did you get a social media picture of everybody?
I think I did, yeah, and I think your wife did too.
Good, thank you. Thanks everybody for playing. I hope that was fun. And I think that what that hopefully does for everybody is it helps everybody realize these 1,700 hours that we all committed, really, we are very much on the same page. We might see things a little bit differently. I loved it when there were lots of different colors and cards out in the audience. It really is sort of a fun visual, because it just means we all agree, but we all see it slightly differently. But I don't think during that entire time that I saw any X's come up at all. Did anybody raise their hand with an X that I missed? I didn't think so. So, which means that in general, we are in alignment. And so the work of figuring out how to operationalize that alignment is what makes us a wonderful, strong organization and community. So this means we can start, if we're all on general alignment, it means we can start to do the next part, which is wordsmithing, both our mission statement, maybe update that, our values. These are the 5 that I shared that we sort of came up with, but maybe there's a slight little variation there, and certainly to wordsmith our covenant if we think that needs to be updated. So we can do that work over the course of the summer, and at our next meeting in the fall, we'll bring all that together in a nice package so that everybody already sees it, already is agreed upon it, and conceptually it shouldn't change from now to then, just the wordsmithing part of it. So that's one branch of work that we have to do. Let's call that the wordsmithing branch. And then we have the operationalized work that we need to do so that we have the structure to be able to interact with each other as we aspire to. So the formula that we came up with, I'm not sure that everybody realized they were coming to a math class today, but pretty simple math. The formula that we came up with is our mission plus our values plus our covenant equals our actionable behavior. And now I'm going to tell a little story. We came up with a whole bunch of various, so we'll come back to that little math. So M plus V plus C equals AB, if that means anything to you. Mission plus values plus covenant equals our actionable behavior. So we came up with a lot of different covenants, and I'll just share them with some of the ones that we came up with folks. People or companies, organizations have banking covenants with their bank. We have housing covenants. A lot of times, if you're in a housing group, love. The Mayflower Compact is an example of our of a covenant, obviously. Environmental agreements, we have lots of environmental agreements, which are a promise to do the right thing or to lower carbon emissions. Companies are essentially making covenants with society around lowering emissions. Sometimes those are codified in laws, sometimes they're not. Like I, of course, talk about the Scout Oath and the Scout Law, like that's a covenant that those kids make. Wedding vows are another example of covenants. The Pledge of Allegiance is another example of a covenant. At work, there are policies. You could even think about those policies at work as sort of a covenant, an agreement between you and your employer. One story I'm going to tell about an environmental covenant that I have personal experience with about how it got sort of misunderstood. I had a property that I was the executive director for, and the property had a conservation easement on it with the state, which said this will always be green. This will always be a camp. It'll always be an outdoor facility. It's about 110 acres, and for that covenant, the agreement was the state gave us a lot of money, and we promised to never build on this particular property. Now, over the course of time, Scouts went through, I used to work for the Scouts, went through a really tough time, didn't have a lot of dollars, and they sort of let the property fall into disrepair. And the folks who were in charge of keeping the property up, they would essentially lean on the covenant with the state, the conservation easement, as a sort of an excuse to not keep up with the land. And I would walk through when I first arrived, I was like, hey, this looks like this used to be a field where all the kids would gather and there were activities here. it looks like all the woodland has encroached, and now the field is much smaller than it ever used to be. And the response was literally, we're not allowed to cut the grass, which is totally not true. So we hadn't cut the grass in 10 years, and then all of these trees had encroached on the field. And so the kids at the camp didn't have the ability to gather in mass because the field was so much smaller than it was when they signed the agreement. Now, it didn't take long for me to go to the agreement and pull it up and make sure that I was right. Like, no, we can cut the grass. It doesn't mean we can't cut the grass. And so covenants can be misinterpreted, and that's a reason why we want to go back, reaffirm them, re-understand them, address them. Society changes, things change. It's good that it is always there.
I'm just going to share another
good.
quick. Thanks, Cheryl. And I want to point out the obvious covenant today, right? We welcomed several new members, right? Which is always, to me, one of the more exciting things that we do here at First Parish, at least once, sometimes a few times a year. I still remember back, I think it was March of 2007 in the meeting house when I stood up in front of this congregation as a brand new member. And that covenant means a tremendous amount, right? There have been times since then that I and my family have been through some tough times, and the members of this congregation have really stood by us and come to our aid and done what we needed them to do and really embraced us in love. There have been times, right, when I've been frustrated with this congregation, right? And there have been things that have been hard, and there have been things that have been challenging. But I've looked to that covenant that I made, and I have stepped up and done what I thought was right and shared my opinion and helped out as best I could. And I think that on some level we might think, well, we're all good people, we would do these things anyway. To some degree, I like to think that's true. I think that it's a lot easier when we have clear covenants and agreements that we've spoken out loud and that we can look at on paper and say, this is how we have agreed to be with one another. And so that just feels like a very obvious example I wanted to point out.
Great. So we wanted to share those two stories. And now we're really getting ready to wrap up this whole section. We had one other math formula that we wanted to share, which is that we feel like our covenant should be visible, both maybe it's something that we say like we currently do, our mission, our values, maybe they should be on the web page, something that we say, something that is constant in our space, right? So visible, and then it should be internalized. It is something that we know and we live with, and we express it in our day-to-day lives. That's how we know it's internalized. And then when it is fully internalized, that is when it is more easily actionable. We can note right away and think and reflect on any given action and say, how does this action reflect on our covenant with each other? And it's easy to do that if that covenant is internalized. We don't have to let's find it on a piece of paper and let's read it and refresh our memories. It's internalized. So if there is a conflict, if there's a tough decision to be made, right away we can go back to our covenant, and it's easy. It's a natural process that is embedded with any other process that we have for the church. So that is sort of our next steps, is we feel like after today we are aligned, and more even aligned than I thought we might be, but there's still opportunities to keep talking. We will start to put a task force together to do the wordsmithing, and the transition team will continue to develop those practices and share those practices as we start to write them down for everybody in the congregation. So when we get to the fall, no surprises, everybody knows what's coming, everybody can hear it as it's being built, and then in the fall we'll be able to vote on it, and that'll be the first time in a long time that everything's been refreshed, renewed, and readopted. There you go. That's us. Thanks very much, everybody.
Right, our closing hymn in the gray hymnal is number 121, will build a land. Please stand as you are willing and able, and join with Sandy.
So this mic stand just broke. Someone can either hold the mic for me or I can sing off my thank you. Okay.
I invite everyone to be seated. So you are our benediction today. You are the ones who make this congregation work. No church or congregation could ever hire enough staff to get everything that needs to be done. So I'm going to rattle off some different programs and activities that happen here, and I want people to either stand or raise your hand if you've been involved with that. Because you are our benediction, where benediction means blessing, and you are the blessing for this congregation. And I'm going to start by talking about the Worship and Music Committee. And Those who are worship associates who are involved in the planning of the services and carrying that out, could you wave or stand? Those of you who do that work. Sandy, our music director, thank you so much for everything that you do. Yeah. Deb isn't back with the kids, but there has been a team of people meeting with Deb weekly on the spiritual development kind of task force. And so, I don't think Amy, Rachel, I don't know if there's anyone else here from that team, Bethany, who have been involved with that process and working to define and build that program. And, make sure you thank Deb for all that she does when she comes back with the kids. Now, Lydia, I'm going to ask you to come out of the shadows here a bit. Lydia has taken this congregation into whole new directions with her technical wizardry. And Paul has been doing that. Paul got us on Zoom and taught me all kinds of things that I never knew how to do 3 years ago. And so Paul has been helping with that process, so has Linda. Anyone else been helping with the tech process? And Lydia, we'd like you to take this morning's flowers as a gift. The other thing that happens on Sunday mornings is the people who are greeters and our membership committee. And Carol is one of the folks that's here, but several of you have helped greet, and Bob and Jan are away today, so they're not here to be acknowledged for that. Rick, you're up for both managing our website, a kind of behind the scenes thing that we don't pay much attention to, but also for co-chairing our social action committee. So all of those who've been involved in social action and social justice work, writing postcards, all of the things that you have done over the last year. Come on, folks. Ron, you get a category all by yourself, Building and Grounds Committee. Ron has been doing yeoman's work, managing this building and making sure that everything is working. Could you either stand or wave? Thank you.
The air conditioners will be out this week.
Okay. Those who have done, well, first of all, I want to acknowledge hospitality and everything that Julia has done to make coffee hour work. And those who have helped Julia bringing stuff in, food, helping to clean up, that's a whole pile of work to make everything about what we do on Sunday mornings more welcoming. Paul and Cheryl have already mentioned the transition team and the work that they have been doing all year, and I also want to acknowledge the other facilitators, Vaughn and Abigail, I think, and Jan and Kim aren't here today. But thank you to all the facilitators and to the transition team. The finance committee that really helps keep us on track. Sibel, our treasurer, Amy, who's chair of the finance committee, have done an incredible job. The parish committee, your parish committee are is the group of people that you hold responsible to keep this organization going. They work with the staff, especially through me. They just go over all of the budget and finance stuff, and they take that responsibility very, very seriously. Julia and Debbie, who have been co-chairing the Parish Committee. And all the other members of the Parish Committee. Wave, come on in. And I want to especially acknowledge Ann Heiser, who has stepped down, who for the last few years has done incredible work as our clerk, helping us to be organized, and who has learned the UU motto that helping organize the UU church is like herding cats. And the parish committee has a special gift that we would like to present to you. You're welcome. I mean, you don't know the hours she's put in going through old records, looking through files in the basement, trying to collect files from people who had been clerk and who had been organizing over the years, and setting up a whole office for herself in the parlor during the pandemic, you know, so that she could do that work. Thank you so much for everything. Special projects and programs, I just want to acknowledge Valerie for all the years that you put to the talent show together. Julia, again, and the folks that help you organize the chocolate auction. That was some of the most fun we've had here all year, isn't it? And then I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. Oh, well.
I think you have. Sir? I think we should thank Arthur Lavoie for what he does for us.
And then, and I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. Your financial contributions, your involvement with committees, your attendance at programs, your attendance here at Sunday mornings. You are the blessing of this congregation. And though she is never here on Sundays, St. Jean, who runs our office and keeps everything going and has been an incredible blessing to all of us. Whenever you're in, please thank her. And one of the things that Jean has done and organized is a special tribute to Ben and Anne in honor of your 75th wedding anniversary. You're welcome. But thank Jean.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, she's collected pictures and photographs and has written a beautiful introductory piece, thanking both of you for all the years of commitment to this congregation.
Thank you, Jean.
Yes. And that is our benefit.
Sorry, can we mention the service auction?
Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry. The service auction. Amy and all the volunteers who helped you. I forgot about that one. Sorry about that. Diane for getting the care committee up. And Diane Stillman, who's not here today, for really helping us to reorganize the caring team and the care committee. Yep. So that should be acknowledged as well. Again, everything that you do, thousands and thousands of hours of time and energy and talent and treasure that you contribute to this congregation. That is our benediction. And I think let's skip the postlude. Yeah. Let's, and I'm actually, okay. And your offerings for the work and mission of this congregation will now be gratefully received. Please be seated. And then one candle for all the joys and sorrows that we carry with us today. And the pastoral prayer, I'm going to just return back to all of you are a blessing. And please remember that you are blessings for each other and that you both give and receive blessings. And we're going to talk more about that next week.